Hey guys, welcome to the vlog. Today I thought I'm just going to have a chat around my philosophy on cars. Today it is absolutely a fantastic day in Ballarat, Victoria. One thing about living in a place that can get quite cold is when you get these nice sunny days, they're just so much, you don't take them for granted as much. They are just so important, so amazing. And today, not a cloud in the sky, it's warming up, it's just fantastic. But I thought I'd share a little bit today about my philosophy on cars. You see, as I grew up, my grandfather probably had more of an influence on me growing up with mechanically than even my dad, although my dad's a truck driver and he definitely had a significant influence on me. My grandpa, because Dad was away driving all the time, Grandpa was around, so he was the one that was. I'd spend time with him down during the day, down the shed, and those things. So my grandpa, I guess, quite often we take on the influences of those who spend time and influence into us. That's a bit of a deeper insight into all different areas of life too. But with mechanical stuff, with cars, what that meant is that my grandpa, who was a World War II veteran, I don't know if veteran's the right word, but he fought in World War II, came through the Depression, the Great Depression, where things were scarce, money and all that, and so he was of that generation where if it was broken, you'd fix it, and even if it was beyond repair, you would still fix it. You'd never buy something new. Like today's society doesn't really fit those in that culture because it's such a disposable society. It's like, oh man, this is broken, we'll just get a new one. Simply because of the time element, to buy a brand new fuel pump for your car might cost you a couple of $100, but to rebuild it might only cost $50, but then you've actually got to get the fuel pump and pull it apart and work out how it goes, and then risk the risk of it not working, and then you need new seals and you need new everything else. And it was one of that generation where you would try and fix what was there, then if you had to, you'd buy the new part to fix the existing. And it's just that generation. But worse than that is that if your car ended up with a giant hole in it, you would cover up that hole. You'd fill it, you'd bog it, you'd get a piece of steel or plate, and if it wasn't the important car, if it was just a tractor or a truck or something, you'd just patch and hot rivet a piece of sheet metal over the top and job's done. And so there was this form and function people talk about a little bit, and some of the extreme level, you get these show cars that are done up ridiculously well, and they're nothing but form, and I remember seeing videos probably probably 10 years ago now, when they just started some of those original show cars from some of the bigger car shows that were doing the laps. They started racing them, and almost straight away all the back bumpers burn up because the exhausts were too big and too close, and sure, the engine was rated for stupid horsepower, but because it never actually been run properly, it wasn't functional because it just burnt all your rear bumpers, and they caught fire and they overheated, and they'd never actually been run through either normal conditions or race conditions. They'd never actually pushed the power that they claimed to have for prolonged amounts of time because they just weren't set up for it. But man, they were finished nice. Don't say that they're terrible cars. I'm not saying anything like that. They're awesome cars, and they were finished and built to perfection. Like the way that they looked, the way that you pop the bonnet and just dribble all over it. It was just phenomenal looking. The functional side of it wasn't quite as set up as say, you know, a race car. Quite often you pop the bonnet of a race car, yeah, and sometimes they look pretty average. There's wires going here and there and everywhere, and bits of hoses going somewhere else, and they're not always the most pretty things to look at. There's exceptions for sure, and people that have, you know, got a bigger budget have built with nice shiny parts, but quite often it's, you know, the guys that are doing it on a shoestring budget or doing it at home, you know, they're a bit, how you going? Yeah, they're not quite as pretty to look at, but they'll push the power that they say they have all day, every day, in extreme conditions. And so my take is, I guess I lean more towards the race car than the show car, just because that's what I brought up with. If you can make it work and if you can make it functional, that's the go. That's great. And especially with some of the luck that I've had, especially with this car, the MPS, it has just meant that if I've got it running, then I'm happy. I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna complain too much about it all. If I can get this car running, if I can push some power, that'd be great. And then eventually, yes, I do want this car to look a bit pretty, but I'm not starting with prettiness in mind from the get-go. This has had, I guess, multiple evolutions. It's evolved over the years from what was, you know, the original sort of bolt-on car where it didn't look too bad. It had some nice bolt-on pretty bits, and then after that we put you know, bigger, more performance parts and a bigger turbo, and once again, the bigger turbo is nice, but it's still a bottom mount turbo. I didn't go top mount. I didn't, you know, which means it's not as pretty to look at. It's not that show car, hey look, I got a big turbo. Originally I was all going to go stealthy. I actually wanted to look a bit stock, but yeah, that didn't happen. Then yeah, I guess eventually the big one is that, yeah, once I rebuilt the whole thing, the first time around it looked pretty nice. I thought I did an alright job of it, but then just over time with issues and problem solving, the car has gotten a bit rough around the edges in the engine bay. It's not as clean and not as pretty as what it used to look, and because of that, you know, it's running the best it's ever run, but eventually, yeah, I will pretty it up a little bit more. I'm just there's other priorities with getting this car running well. So at the end of the day, I guess my goal is to have a car that's running really well, really reliable, and then I'll go for the prettiness. So I know it's probably doubling up, you know, so I'll just buy decent hose for my breathing system to begin with, but then of course everybody wants braided lines because braided lines look awesome, and so to put braided lines on, I'll actually do that the second time round, especially with this build, just because I wasn't sure, you know. I don't want to cut a braided line to length because I don't have a huge budget. It all comes out of my own pocket. We're not, while we do have some sponsors with Nate and a few of those guys, when we're talking about hoses and those sort of things that are a bit more customizable, and they're not really an off-the-shelf item, yeah, you know, that's all out of our own pocket. I don't think just because we've got a couple of sponsors that, don't think, I guess because we've got a couple of sponsors, this car hasn't cost us a packet. I could have bought 3 of these cars for the money that I've poured into it. I actually worked out, it's a bit depressing, I could have bought a GTR for the amount of money that I've poured into this car over the years, which is pretty depressing, but the car goes really well, and it's unique, and it's mine, and I built it, which is all good. So I guess that's, at the end of the day, that's my philosophy. If I can do it myself, and if I can make it run, then I'm happy. The prettiness factor for show and shine, I'll get there eventually, but it's not the thing that I've started out in mind with. It's not my number one priority. I actually wanted just a car that I'd be able to, you know, be able to drive, be able to learn some skills on, and I've done that. So next, once the car's fully tuned, I've got it really dialed in, we'll be looking at some of the we'll probably do the engine bay first, and then I'll actually do the paint work on it. So Look, thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you next time on the vlog. Let us know what your thoughts are when it comes to doing cars. Cheers guys, bye.